welcome to Meet Me on the Playground. As some of you know, I'm Suzie Domnick, the new president of the Children's Media Association. And what I wanted to do was have conversations with some of my dearest friends in the industry to share their insights, their career path, everything that they've sort of learned to get them to this point so that we can share that with all of our members. So on that note, let me introduce to you Stacy Lellos, who I'm going to read this title because it's very long. She is the Vice President and Publisher of Workman Kids and Eloquent Young Readers for Workman Publishing, which you started last year.
I did.
But I want to start at the beginning. So I only So I only know them as Gigi and Poppy. So tell me about, and that's only because she shares so much on Instagram, which I love. Sure. But you tell me about growing up and what your home life was like, and then we'll go to UConn and we'll go from there. So
oh my gosh, we're going to do the whole shebang.
Okay. We're doing the whole shebang.
All right, I'm ready. So I grew up in the Poconos in Pennsylvania, the daughter of two school teachers, one English, one math. I got one skills far more than the other, both of whom coached. So I was a student who thankfully loved learning, because that would have been really, really tough if I hadn't.
That would have been tough.
Also loved sports, thank God, but also loved to read. And I feel like I had a really privileged childhood, because the Poconos at that point still were very, untamed in the 70s and 80s, and, creek jumping and, going down to play, baseball with friends at the park. And it was a very wholesome childhood. My parents are still with us today. I'm so lucky.
Yeah, you are.
And in fact, arriving from Florida next week.
No way.
Yeah, to stay for a couple weeks.
Oh my God, I love that.
I can't wait. No scandals. I mean, I had a really happy childhood.
I did. It was funny, like doing my research so that I could be proficient in all things Stacy. I did not know that we both played field hockey, which I did, obviously on another continent in England, but loved it and was just amazed that you were also a field hockey girl.
I was a field hockey girl.
Okay, so then you went to the University of Connecticut. Is that UConn? Is that right?
Yes.
And what was your major? What were you focusing on at that point?
Well, I mean, Susie, I changed it 3 times.
I did not know that.
So, yeah, that's why I always tell the college kids, it's all good. I don't know how many kids really know what they want to do at 18. But I was also a tricky kid, because I wanted to play Division I field hockey and be a fashion merchandising major. I mean, not too many schools have a strong fashion program and also Division I field hockey.
Division I, yeah.
So I was a walk-on actually at UConn, and started as a fashion merchandising major. And at first that felt like a lot of math, which I've come to love, by the way. But at the time I'm like, oh gosh, so much math. But I made a huge mistake and then thought, instead I'll go into business. Not my best move. At the same time, I switched sports and I moved and played lacrosse at UConn, which at the time was club. So it was I've had 2 knee surgeries in college. It was a bit of a disaster. I'm like, I can't do this.
You're still doing those in your adult life too.
I know.
But that's a whole nother conversation.
I'm a hot mess. We can talk about physical therapy till the cows come home. But I finally got to the point in college where I was like, what do I love? Like what brings me joy? Forget everything and everybody else. What do I love? And I came back to reading. I came back to books and said, you know what? I'm going to be an English major. And I minored in Spanish. I switched to club lacrosse, and I had the best junior and senior year of college ever. So I loved it. It was wonderful. It was a great experience. It helped me develop the ability to trust in myself, I think, in terms of what was going to make me happy and not what other people said I should do. And it was all good. It was all good things. I had some amazing professors, so that also helps.
But we both said, we tell our kids, follow your heart. And obviously that's what you did.
That's true.
But then I didn't know this. So you were at Simon & Schuster before Scholastic.
I was for 5 years.
So how was that?
It was funny, because I was telling a candidate who was interviewing for an editorial assistant job the other day. She said, well, what's your story? And I was like, well, listen, I thought I was going to be an editorial assistant and I couldn't get a job. So I'm like, my arrogance and my naivete, right? I had no idea. So I'm like, I'll just get any job in any house and then I'll switch. Which of course is not really how the universe works. But I took the first job that I actually got an offer for, which was at Simon and Schuster in the adult division. And again,
adult.
It was the adult division. That's where I started. And I've been so fortunate and also smart, and that I intentionally seek people who I think I can learn from.
Yeah.
And in that experience, I had wonderful mentors still to this day. Michael Jacobs, who is the CEO of Abrams, was the head of sales. I was the assistant to the director of field sales. At the time, there weren't even computers. So she would leave voicemails and I would dictate them. She would dictate them and I would like type them up as notes. That's how we had recap notes and next steps. But I was an ambitious kid. So I'm like, what else you want to give me? Like, let me learn some more.
Right.
So I took on work for every department. And it's again, I found my passion, right? So I was like, you know what? I don't even want to go into editorial. I love marketing.
Right.
And from there, I also found that there was an opening in the children's group. And I transitioned first to pocketbooks, which was the mass market division, where I worked on the children's group. And then I moved to children's publishing and I never looked back. Like that was the aha moment. Like, oh, this is my whole heart. Right. This is where I bring all of me to work every day, because the fact that I could have any part of thinking about how to help children in whatever small way discover the world around them.
Yeah.
Done. So almost every other job I've deviated here and there.
Yeah, but still, you still kept that through line for most of it.
Well, pharmaceuticals was a complete non sequitur.
Wait, that one I don't know about.
That was Pfizer for 1 year, which was brilliant, frankly, because everything was data driven, which was not something that was happening, frankly, in the publishing world at that time.
Oh, that's an interesting.
So I learned a ton, worth it, but I didn't care at the end of the day how much Listerine we sold. I care a lot about how many books we sell.
But then you moved to Scholastic.
I did.
And well, I mean, in total, you're there for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
If you do the 2 stints and the Klutz stint. So,
yeah.
So talk to me about that. I think you got to Scholastic right around the same time I got to Warner Brothers, because then we were both slammed with Harry Potter, and it was just like all game over. We're just in and having fun and doing
There's no other thing we do but Harry Potter.
What else can you do but Harry? But tell me about that. Like, obviously coming into a new position and then getting one of the hottest publishing phenomenons, I'd say, of our time.
Yeah.
And, being charged with the marketing and coordinating with the studio, which was me. And figuring out like everything. Like, it just must have been a great step. And I knowing you and knowing your personality, just like run with it and had fun with it, but like also challenging. I mean, to jump in and to have something that really, I guess Scholastic's had many, many, many bestsellers, but this was like another level, I would think.
But I think this was another level for everybody. But Scholastic is known for its franchise, Magic School Bus, Clifford.
Yeah.
But Harry Potter is, a phenomenon. Not likely. I don't know if we'll see anything else like it in our time. And I by the way, got to work on Hunger Games afterwards, which was, probably the next of the next. But it's so funny. I don't reflect back as much. And when I do, I'm kind of awed by it.
Yeah.
And not even just like, I think much more like how fortunate, like, I think in life, like there's hard work and there's luck, and sometimes they intersect. And I think that was the culmination of that for me. And that the new job was created specifically because Harry Potter was, because I joined after the 3rd book had been published.
Right.
And then it was just this huge crescendo building. And they're like, we need more, like, we need people who just do this. All they do is focus on our biggest brands, obviously Harry Potter being the biggest. And the other thing is that Scholastic worked as different business units. There's the retail trade, there's the book clubs, there's the book fairs, there's the education, there's the magazines. And when you have a big, as you know better than anybody, when you have a big brand, everybody with their own objective and tactics is not leveling up to one global opportunity. And so I was thrilled to work under Barbara Marcus, who to me was like the end all be all in publishing. The fact that I got to work for her is like, I still quote her all the time. I'm like, but is it worthy? Which is something she would say. And I've taken that with me, but
she's an icon. Yeah, definitely.
She is an icon. But it was fascinating to work across completely different businesses with different P&Ls and different presidents to say, no, we're going to come up with one singular objective,
right,
with a couple strategies, and then we're going to do different tactics for this brand based on your channel and your expertise. And then what does that mean when Warner Brothers comes into play when the movie started coming out?
Right.
That was interesting.
And
thank God, again, when I look back to the point about like thinking about our history together, how grateful I am, because that could have been so tricky, right? Yeah. And instead it felt seamless. It felt like, okay, if all of these things are functioning at their best, then this is the best thing for the brand. So we're going to make that be true.
Right.
I'm not sure that happens all the time. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, what are your plans? When are you releasing? What's your marketing? Okay, so then the opportunity over here is this. And how does it level up into something bigger for all of us?
Right. And sustainable. Like that was the other thing. Joe had always said to me, don't ruin my books, so everything I did, I was like, okay, but we can't ruin the books. We have to ebb and flow around the release of the film and the release of the book and keep everyone interested. But for sure.
Yeah. I mean, she obviously a genius in what she wrote, but she was very thoughtful about the way that the marketing of the books were first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what enabled all the rest of it to flow, because the integrity of the work was always maintained. And that was an important lesson for me in brand marketing, period.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I had to develop a specific team at Warner Brothers that only read every piece of copy on every single product to make sure it matched up with every word in the book.
No, that's fabulous. Or if I didn't know, I forgot, and I'm happy to have it back in my memory.
It was crazy. I mean, it was part of brand assurance at Warner Brothers, which they do a phenomenal job, but we had to have an extra section of brand assurance people just to do that, because Christopher was on it. Christopher Little, may he rest in peace. I know, I'm very sad about that too. Yes. Everyone was, I think you, me, everyone was so, and Diane obviously, so protective of Harry within our organizations that to me was sort of our coming together was that passion.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we go through many years of Harry Potter, I guess. And then my question is for this, and I had a similar experience. I was at Paramount Pictures for 10 years before Warner Brothers. And sometimes I find when you stay with a company for a long time, it's hard to be seen and to keep moving up, whether that's in title or in compensation for said title. I just wonder how that experience was for you. Because I know for me, I did well, but then I ultimately had to jump to Warner Brothers to really level up to where I felt I should be.
Yeah. I mean, my experience was different in that after my oldest was born, she's 19, Sophia, I thought, I don't think I can do this full-time job, commute an hour and a half each way in and out of New York City, and be the kind of parent that I wanted to be. Right. And at the time, I mean, again, this is like a different time, right? No one was really comfortable with a flexible work arrangement.
Right. No, very different time. Yeah.
And so I left Scholastic, and forever and ever, and I've actually written about this, I will be grateful to Ellie Berger. I could actually cry when I talk about it. Ellie is the president and publisher for Scholastic Trade still. And she would call me and say, okay, Stacy, I know you're not ready to come back yet, but, and it was like, and the funny thing was, it would be like, we have the next manuscript in for the book. Would you come back and just part-time manage the brand for us until the book comes? And I remember specifically because I was pregnant with my second child, Nicholas, and he was born on July 24th. And the book came out July 31st. And I was the size of a small house standing on Mercer Street, which, we had renamed Wizarding World, and we did all these things, Diagon Alley. And I'm like, you can see footage of me on the Today Show with the headset on, 9 months pregnant. And they're like, so listen, if the baby's born, can we name him Harry? No,
No way. They did not.
100%. But so yeah, so that happened I think twice. So anytime I got pregnant, everybody's like, there's a new book. But
Oh my
Ellie was
gosh.
wonderful, because then that moment was over, and then she would say to me, okay, we have this program called the 39 Clues. It's about to launch. We need somebody to come in and run it. I know you won't come back full time. Will you come back? No. Okay, well, 3 days a week. And I did. Or this one's going out on maternity leave. Can you come in and fill in on licensing? And at the time, Suzie, I remember thinking I had to get my ego in check, because I watched other people, colleagues, peers, who had much more senior jobs, making a lot more money.
Right.
And I was reporting to them. I'm like, oh, conversely, I made a choice.
Right.
And in retrospect, who would have known my nonlinear part-time path through the grace of Ellie Berger gave me the experiences that enabled me to take on a much bigger job than potentially I would have had I gone the linear path. Because to your point, it's like by increments. Here's another 10,000 for doing the work,
Right.
And so you have to leave most companies.
Yeah, you do. Unfortunately, it's sad though. I really wish it didn't have to be that way. But even that's just sort of baked in. Like HR won't let you jump that high. Was like things I would get. You know what I mean? It's like, but my peer has that amount of money, so
Yeah, and again, I think that's starting to change.
Yeah,
but that wasn't our truth when you and I were coming up the ranks. And this is one of the things I'm so grateful for now, is I feel like I'm able to do more for my team than was my reality.
Right.
And I think that's part of what we have to do as professionals is be the leaders we wish we had, and the advocates that we needed. And how do we take that experience and make it real for the people who work for us now?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so done a little bit of a dodge there, but then you went to Toys R Us.
I did. Well, I went to Toys R Us because I was, again, by that point, I actually had been back full time at Scholastic. So I came back as head of marketing.
Okay.
But I had 3 kids under 10.
Yeah.
And still doing that crazy commute.
Yeah.
And Toys R Us was in my backyard.
Oh.
And I literally had a 5-minute door-to-door commute. And I knew that they were not who they had been. Right. And I thought, well, I wanted to be part of the change. I wanted to be part of that story. To me, it was toys. It wasn't books per se. I mean, it was obviously books, but it was
kids. So.
It was kids. And that was the thing for me. It was kids. And I'm really proud of what we accomplished in the year I was there. I remember when I was leaving, Richard Berry, who was the chief merchant at the time. And I was like, but I couldn't do enough. I didn't do enough. And he goes, what are you talking about? Like, did you not see, we changed the front of all of our stores. We took space back. We changed the big book, the holiday book, right? Because I was like, it's a book. And this was the publishing thing. I still remember this. I'm like, you are writing, the holiday book reads as if each category manager was in charge of their pages, because they are, right. As opposed to a book that a parent would read with their kid by chapter of ideas of what they want.
Right.
And God bless him. He's like, all right, go ahead. Okay. So, it was a wonderful experience in many ways, but it was clear when I was there that what was happening at Toys R Us was so much bigger than little old me as VP of brand marketing was going to be able to address. And in the meantime, I got a call once again from Ellie Berger. Who said, they owned Klutz, Scholastic owned Klutz. It was based out of San Francisco. And she said, in order to try to find synergies and maximize opportunities, we're going to close down the headquarters in San Francisco. So we're moving it to New York. Would you consider coming back? And for that, I said yes.
That was a big enough, yeah. But that changed, we'll talk about Klutz, but that changed things in your personal life, because then you had to have a conversation with Jason, right?
Yeah, well, it's fun. I mean, so my husband had been the stay-at-home parent. He go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when did he start that whole?
Well, that's what I was just thinking. I'm like, okay, let me go back. because he had his own advertising agency.
Yeah.
And
he's insanely talented. So
yeah,
I just,
wildly talented and but I think was also ready to pivot from advertising. And I continued to have this incredible good fortune at Scholastic.
Right.
So it was like, okay, he said, we made a decision as a family. I would continue to work and he would be the stay-at-home parent. And it's not what I think I would have, like, if you had asked me 20 years ago, I'm not sure I would have said this is exactly what I want.
Right.
But I think you figure out how to make it work. And we both had to sacrifice something in that, right?
Yeah.
I think we both gained things in that. But I will say, when I went back full time to New York City, he became the everything. Right. And I don't think I fully appreciated all that meant,
right,
frankly, until COVID. And I was back taking care of the family and the household while running, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how to cook a meal. Like, I'm like, who are you, Stacy? You should know this. Like, you're a talented woman. You should be able to cook. Not so much.
No, but yeah, it's true. And I think, we've talked about this several times, but the idea of balance, which is really a myth, it's really just about prioritizing, right? When we're with the family, it's the most important time. And when we're at work, we give it our all too. I think that, we make those decisions in our career for the betterment of the long-term betterment of the family is the goal, and I think that's what you guys ended up doing, which was phenomenal.
Well, and I think back, Suzie, to how you had given me an opportunity to work with you. And it was, as much as I desperately wanted that,
right,
financially, I was like, I don't think I can do this in this moment,
right?
Because I needed to earn a certain, and I couldn't take the kind of risks, but also bring the kind of rewards of being your own boss, and so I'm just so grateful to you also as another working mom and advocate for me, frankly, that you tried to help me in that moment and then also understood when I couldn't. Like, that's it's a rare friend and a rare gift. And I don't know if I ever have fully shared with you how much it meant to me and how much I could cry, how much it continues to mean to me to have you in my court. We need our lady friends.
We need our tribe.
Yes.
That's so true. Thank you for that. That's very, very sweet of you. And I hope I love you to pieces. And we can talk about hours, everyone, but we'll go back on track. Let's talk about Klutz, because I know there was a lot to sort out when you got in there, and you guys grew by leaps and bounds. So give me that scenario and what I know it's kids, but it's not publishing. So why that choice? And then the second one would be, I think we all got to watch you as you've always been a leader, but to have your own per se domain, you really sort of got another set of wings and went.
Fun. I flew with those wings. So Klutz, to me, one of the reasons I was so excited to take over the leadership of that organization is because Klutz, to me, it was a beloved brand.
Yeah.
Who was and it was struggling. It was in the red.
Yeah.
And I felt like if we could return Klutz to inherently who it was when John Cassidy founded the company, kind of those ideals, but leverage, as I called it, the mothership of Scholastic. We could bring it back to its former glory, in so much as the whole retail landscape changed, right? Like the independence, there was no Discovery stores anymore. There wasn't Zany Brainy. There weren't those bigger specialty chains.
Yeah.
And so, it was harder work, but it's some of the most rewarding work I've ever done. And I think if I pride myself and kind of honor something about myself, is I surround myself by amazing people.
Yeah.
And I hired a fantastic team of wildly talented people who had skills that I did not. I mean, when I told Mom Gigi, it's an arts and crafts company, she goes, "What are you doing with that?" Thanks, Thanks for that vote of support. But I knew I didn't have those skills, right? In fact, but they used to laugh at the office because they'd be like, okay, kid tester number 1 will be Stacy. Because if Stacy can do it, then the average 5-year-old cannot.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
But really, it was finding the right talent, getting back to its truth. I did a whole retail tour. And I went back to its roots, which was specialty. Yep. And they listen, specialty retail are my people forever and ever. Amen. Hallelujah. Yeah. And they were brutally honest. They're like, here, we don't know if you're a book or if you're a toy. Like back to your question about, we don't know where to shelve you. I'm like, shelve me wherever you're going to give me a spot. I'll be whatever
in the aisle thing and just give me a moment.
Give me a chance. But what I loved about Klutz, and is still the truth about Klutz, is that you couldn't separate one from the other. It was the book and the toy, right? Because the creation of the product came from the instructions that were so critical, and that was the differentiator. No other person in our space could claim that. And so how do you yell that from the mountaintops? Like, that's why we're different and special. It's not that all these other companies aren't also creating worthy, wonderful products. Many of them were. But they weren't giving you the book entryway into learning. And I think also the sensibility of, which I've taken with me completely into Workman and my life, which is failure as part of the process. Embrace failure. Right. The first chapter of the first book Klutz ever published, which was juggling, it's called The Drop. And it was literally drop the balls. Yeah. Okay. We got that over with. Now let's begin.
Now let's learn how to juggle. I love that.
I loved it too. And I think to me, that was part of where we were with Klutz. It was like, okay, let's not pretend things are working when they're not. Let's get back to who we are. Let's rebuild. And thank you, Ellie, and thank you, Dick Robinson, the CEO of Scholastic, for giving us the grace period in many ways to do that. Yeah. And we were successful in rebuilding it. And then we launched Klutz Junior for preschool, and we launched Klutz Maker Lab to tap into STEM. And right before I left, we were launching Klutz Press, which was back to like the true roots of Klutz as book first, right? Plus the novelty. So I'm incredibly proud of everything that we accomplished at Klutz. I call myself cheerleader in chief for Klutz still. Like they still have my heart. I wish them every ounce of success.
Well, I will say though, I know you're a very humble person in the sense that you always praise your team and lift them up, which I think is a great quality of a leader. I know it is. But I think you should also recognize your skill set and how you've grown as a leader, because it's hard to find those people and build that team. Yeah. Not only the individuals that have the talent, but the team clicking together, working together so that you can, do amazing work together. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you for that. I am proud of that. I am proud of cultivating a culture that recognizes the work of the team. And guess what? When you do that, they're really loyal to you. Yeah. That's not the reason to do it. No. It's just a really nice side benefit of it.
But yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is just community at work, right? Or whatever you like to use. You know what I mean? Yeah. And by supporting each other and having each other's back, that, creates that community.
But I can only play the game if I'm clear on what my end goal is, which is not about power.
No.
It is about the advancement of the group, of the work, of the talent. And oftentimes you do have to play the game. It's not a joyful part of the experience. No, but we'd be kidding to people if we weren't, telling the truth about that.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a part of that. Okay, so now we arrive at the current position.
A long journey. I feel really old.
So tell me, I'm super excited about this position. I know the minute you got there, and then they added things. So we can talk about that too. But I think more than anything, it must be a little strange to be in another publishing house after being with Scholastic for so long, and wondering how is everything totally different? Are there similarities? Just tell us about what's going on over at Workman that.
Well, it's so funny because one of the reasons I was so keen to join Workman is because it was an independent publishing house, and I was in conversation with the CEO, Dan Reynolds, my boss, who I adore. Again, I've been listen, I'm not naming the bosses who were not fabulous. I've had those too, but I've also had some really wonderful ones. And Dan is right in that lineup. And so we were just chatting all summer because I'm like, listen, I'm not going to start working right away. I have this incredible gift of time. I'm going to honor that time. I'm going to take it. So, and what he couldn't tell me was that he was in conversations with Hachette to sell the company. So I call it like we had this really lovely courtship over the summer, like kind of get to know you and how do you think and what do you think? We're creating a mission statement. What do you think? And we would just chat. And he did something so classy. I'll never forget it. Which is he knew the announcement was going to come out about the sale to Hachette. And we were in conversation. I didn't know.
Right.
He scheduled a meeting with me for 9 a.m. the morning after so that he could immediately share with me what was happening and why and what he couldn't tell me. And I thought it was so classy and spoke to who he was as a human. And I'm like, I want to work for this guy. And I had to pause because I was like, I really thought I was done with this whole reporting to Wall Street, numbers business, like month to month, quarter to quarter, reforecast, the reforecast. But then I thought, you know what? I can kind of take it felt very Klutz-like to me.
Right.
In that here is this smaller entity that's used to operating fairly independently within the mothership.
Right.
And I just lived through this. So I could guide these people in some way. At least I hoped I could. That was my hope.
Yeah.
Into this transition into corporate America. And I have found it to be incredibly rewarding. Workman's ethos, their mission, it reminds me very much of everything I loved about Klutz. It's about honoring kids. It's about, fiercely independent. Peter Workman, who founded Workman, gave us a commencement speech at Yale, and I reference it all the time.
Oh wow, I have to watch it.
It's so good. Y'all need to read it. It's because it's about why do we do this work,
right?
And it's the truth, right? It's like tilting at windmills. You can't predict some of these things. You do it because you love it. You do it because you don't know how to do anything else. You don't want to do anything else.
Right.
And it was literally about what made Workman different, and it was a small list intentionally so that every book could have attention. Like every book on the list gets marketing and publicity. I'm here to tell you that is not the way it works. The bigger publishing houses, they try. I mean, God knows I tried when I ran marketing. It's just not realistic when you publish 600 books a year. Or it is to a certain extent, but not the way it is true at Workman.
Right. It's the same at Netflix, right? Like so much stuff. And like you don't see all of it, so you have to pick the ones that'll get the biggest traction.
Correct.
But it's sad because the same amount of effort goes into every show or every book.
Correct. And that's the truth about Workman. And building the children's team and the children's group already had incredible bestsellers. So Brain Quest existed, Big Fat Notebooks, Indestructibles, Paint by Stickers, all of these great brands. And then Workman has always been known for really high quality and very focused on the intentionality of it. And again, as the way Barbara used to say, is it worthy? Dan says, why is it necessary? Because it's a nonfiction house, right? So why is it necessary? And I love that as well. Right. And so I love thinking about why is every book on our list necessary? We publish fewer, so they need to be necessary, right? We need to believe in them because we're going to pour our whole heart and soul into them.
Right.
And there's something kind of magical about coming into work every day thinking, what are the things? I literally started creating a list. Like, okay, what do we need to think about? Like, what's a finance book for kids? Right. Who should write that book? How do we tell that story in a way that feels authentic? Like, why aren't there more books about periods? Why is every 13-year-old girl still turning to the American Girls that care and keep it cute? No knock on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's true.
My girl, I'm like, here it is. But we should be doing that. We should have the definitive period book. How great is that? Literally to come into work. And so y'all, if you have any ideas.
Well, I was just going to say the one, me, I'm always going to share my ideas, but you have to do one, which I know you probably have many on this topic, but there's a lot of the intersection of child stress and the environment is real. And I think we need to have a book that really speaks about it. Because like my daughter said to me, we don't have that much longer. And I'm like, what are you talking about, babe?
Yeah.
And, it's like she hears something. And then, so I think you have to put the definitive word out on the environment, babe.
Yeah, 100%. My daughter, by the way, said the same thing. Well, everything's on fire.
Yeah.
Also, you live in California, Susie,
Yeah.
so it probably feels even more urgent and real to you. Although I think we can't turn a sprinkler on right now either. But yeah, no, climate change is one of them. We have a book coming out called Meltdown and about the disappearance of the world's glaciers. And we keep coming back to, but why? Like, can you understand glaciers if you've never seen one? How do we make that real for a kid? I love that kind of thinking about how to make it obvious for every kid.
Yeah, no, I love that. Very cool.
I get passionate and I talk too much and then I lose our whole thread.
We were just talking about, but now you have a little bit of fiction in your life too, right?
I do. Which I've missed actually. And it's like one of those things you don't know how much you miss it till you get it back. But that's mostly what I had done for most of my career at Scholastic. And the Algonquin Young Readers List is exquisite. It is.
It really is.
Oh my gosh. Like I Elise Howard, who founded the list 10 years ago, I was reading, I would read, because again, I wasn't acquiring yet. I was still learning. She was retiring. That's how this came under my purview. And I would write like a little love note to her and the team after every book I read. And somebody's like, which one's your favorite? I'm like, I can't pick. And I'm not actually trying to be politically correct. I can't. Like, I loved each one for a different reason. And that's, again, so rare. That I feel like I now have the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? I have from, 0 to, I don't know, 25, kind of under my purview, and thinking about it in terms of partly it's just, we get things in from the agents and the authors themselves about what are the proposals. And then the other parts are, again, like, what do we want?
Right.
What are the stories we want to tell, and who are the authors to do it? And is it fiction?
Right.
Do we approach it from a fiction standpoint? Is that a different way into it? Or is this just a straight nonfiction, and what's the authentic voice there? But boy, is it fun to do both. I'm in my happy place. Also, a working mom has children coming home from school, not home from school. We got camp, we got soccer. So let me just move my camera.
It's fine. This is what we do every day, babe.
Okay. So we got, by the way, we have the dog and two children just hanging. So this is working mom moment.
The dog. That could be a whole nother podcast, babe, because we both have the love for our dogs.
I know. It's
okay. So we've sort of woven work and family together, which is what we do best. So I think that speaks to it. We don't need a whole separate section to talk about family and home life, unless there's something you'd like to add. But I guess I have
that ad nauseum, but we'll keep going.
I just have a couple of like industry questions, and I think that could be really helpful to our members as well. And one is the idea of intersection of everything, right? Like, it's just happening all around us, and publishing traditionally has been slower to move into new, I don't even want to call them verticals, but just integrate newness.
It's true.
And I guess one question is sort of your opinion on where publishing's heading. And then I'd love to get into the idea of the power coming a little bit back to the author and like giving them options. And then we have to talk about Wattpad before, Okay,
we'll put it all on the list. I do think publishing has been like an old media, slow to change. I think it's had a huge reckoning and made enormous progress. And again, I think the data is irrefutable in terms of where kids' attention is right now. Right. And so it's to our own peril if we are not cognizant of the fact that kids are not just, they have much more in their lives right now than just picking up the book and reading it. And by the way, they have to read so much for school.
Yes.
And I get this, right? Because I read so much for work that sometimes reading for pleasure that's not what I'm going to choose to do.
Right.
So I think it's how do you take, and this is what I'm so excited to do with you coming up on some of our properties, is how do you take this IP and bring it to other verticals? And again, I think back to our first lesson on Harry Potter, right? Like, how do you keep the fidelity of what it is as a book, and honor that, but also bring it maybe to a whole different audience who would
Right.
never have discovered it in that form. Maybe they come back to the book, maybe they don't, but and again, of course I want them to. I think that
Yeah.
goes without saying. But you take the truth about the work,
Right.
and you can envision that in other ways, and I think
Yeah.
that's good. I think that's a good thing, and I think more and more that is true, and frankly necessary.
Yes.
And so sometimes the necessity forces the reality, and in this case, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm doing a ton of research right now on Gen Alpha, and I think they're really going to change and challenge us, in
Yes.
terms of what they want. And because they have much more the power and the decision making and all of that, and because they get so much data in their lives every
Yeah.
day, all day, we just have to rethink about it. It doesn't mean we're going to change every piece of the puzzle. It's just, me and my IP and all the doors into it. We're
Yes.
just going to go through a different door, and
Yes.
then we'll still get
Yes.
there. So I just
Well,
think
and
it's
look how many books have gone into movies now. I mean, Reese's Book Picks.
yeah,
Look at that. Look at Oprah. I mean, Oprah
yeah,
was the originator in
the
that space,
original,
and
yeah,
but now it's happening everywhere, and I'm so excited about it. We want to give it's funny because sometimes I'll say, especially in with Algonquin young readers, um, these books are too wonderful. These words, this
yeah,
prose, the story, the characters, we need to reach more people with this.
yeah,
You created magic.
right,
I want to find the audience for it. Like this, let's embrace this. And they do. I mean, that's not an issue with the talent at
right.
all. It's just more, how do we do it and still honor the book? I think that's the thing everybody's still trying to figure out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, and I think too, I guess it goes back to, well, I guess Zoe was, insanely, and still is, an avid reader, my oldest daughter.
Yes.
Um, but for me, reading a book is a gift to myself, right? You get
Yes.
to fall into this world, and all those things that I deal with all day long, I no longer have to think about, because if it's a great book, like you're describing, I fall into it and they all go away. They just melt, and I'm
Yes.
in there, and
Yes.
I'm in the story, I'm in the character, all of that. So the one thing I would say, Bailey, my youngest daughter,
Yeah.
hasn't found that joy of reading as much as I wish she would have, but I know she will. But I do think, whether it's book talk or, she brings those books, it's
Yes.
like
Yes.
figuring out those bridges
Yes.
over to her generation, and being playful and creative. And to your point, embracing what the IP is, or the intellectual property is, but then finding that unique twist in another medium to bring them in, because um, the gift of reading to me is always just going to be the sweet spot. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what you personally get out of reading a book versus what a school tells you to read a book and then write a report. That kind of thing.
You say that, and what all I can think about is Dave Pilkey, one of my very favorite authors, illustrators, humans. Is he advocates so strongly for letting kids pick the books that resonate with them, and it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
level they're at, or if they're a graphic novel. It is because once you find the joy,
Yes.
then you will become a reader, and it's okay if it ebbs and flows. But Dave is a passionate advocate for that, and I think it's right, and I think it's not then just about like the book,
Right.
but it's about the, like, whatever way kids come into that, we should embrace that.
Well, and we don't need to dwell on it, but the research, if you read books and how you disseminate content, I mean, like, and what it does for your brain to read a story, and all of that, that's still something that you can't get, like, by scrolling through TikTok.
That's the truth. That's the truth, sister. Let's say it that loud and proud.
Okay, so then audiobooks are taking off.
Yeah.
How do you feel about audiobooks and kids? Like, I still love the idea of reading, so I guess as a parent, as a category, it's exploding. But, like, do you have a feeling, like, how you feel about it for Workman, or just in general?
However way we're getting these books to kids, I'm thrilled about. I think audiobooks as a category for kids, or it's not what it is for adults. I mean, I think I need to be more mindful about the data. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know for the longest time, so much of it was about adult crossover.
Yeah.
and not about kids themselves.
Yeah.
Finding it. So it's interesting because the head of audio at Hachette, on Maria Leslie, we've been talking about like podcasts for kids.
Yeah.
And what are the other ways via audio
Yeah.
that we can reach kids with our content? And so one of the things I'm curious to chat with you about too, like this feels like uncharted territory in many ways. Not ebooks, but or ebooks, audiobooks, but the world of podcasts. Still trying to figure it out. So I need help.
Yeah. No, I think it's amazing. And then what are your feelings about Wattpad? And I'll add my 2 cents. I love it. And again, I don't think it's really that strong in kids, but I think it could be. And so that's obviously why I'm bringing it up. But, being an ex-Netflixer, and then what they have, and that they're now building a relationship. I just think the one thing that is often missing in entertainment is the risk factor. And that's why so many people go to books, right? You've got the instilled audience there. What I think Wattpad can give you, which I think the publishing industry is sometimes it's hard to get this because of how all the books are reported and stuff like that. Wattpad is now breaking down for showrunners for Netflix. Don't take out chapter 5, 7, and the beginning 2 paragraphs of chapter 11, because those are the most fan favorite pieces of this book.
Fascinating.
So I just think
I didn't know that. I'm learning something right now.
So I think, again, this convergence of all of this. But what I love about the idea of Wattpad and Netflix do is 2 data-driven companies in different formats.
Yeah.
But now they're sort of, using architecture of fan feedback to craft. And I think that's interesting to me. That's not an executive going, I think that'll work, let's do that show.
Right.
It's really like a little bit more, one level up from that.
Yeah, I you know what? It's so funny. I remember working with Wattpad quite a bit at Scholastic, and I haven't tapped into it again since I've been at Workman. And based on this conversation, I clearly need to go back. Feels like an opportunity I'm missing. So more on that later, Suzie.
Oh my God, I love that. All right, my love, those were my crazy long-winded questions. I guess the last, leaving the conversation, what's your favorite book right now, and tell us why?
Ooh.
I know you're going on vacation, so how big is that stack?
It's ridiculous. I was like, actually, I feel like I would need to grab this book. My favorite book right now we just released yesterday.
Oh,
from Workman.
Okay.
From Algonquin Young Readers. It's called, oh my gosh, hold on. Literally, I'm taking my computer with me. Hold that thought. I'm getting this in real time.
We will do what it takes, right?
Oh, and now I'm worried I might have it upstairs. Stacy, how do I not have it with me? This is the problem about working from home, because I don't have anything.
In one set location, yeah.
No, it's called How You Grow Wings. And it is, if you follow me on the gram, I've been writing about it. It's a debut YA masterpiece, honestly, and I don't say that lightly. So I think it's top. It's so funny. What's your favorite? My favorite is whichever one we're doing right now, and so that is literally top of mind because it released yesterday.
Right.
And Rima Onaseta, and I cannot recommend it more highly. She is a Nigerian living in America, Nigerian woman who tells a story of 2 sisters in Nigeria. And I don't even want to say too much.
No, yeah, we have to read it.
But it's so brilliant. It's so it's breathtaking. That's the word I use to describe it. So this is why I say thank every book I read on the Algonquin Young Readers list is a gift, because I could dead flip as Sarah Farrison. It's horror. It's not my thing. Right. I'm not a horror person. Sarah Farrison is my person. I think she's amazing. So I was thrilled to read her new book. That comes out I think, God, is it tomorrow? I'm losing my mind. I've lost all sense of time because I'm working on 2025 lists right now. But we have I literally could go through the entire list. And it's funny that I say that, because I'm actually not even trying to toot Algonquin Young
Oh
Reader.
no, this is your passion. I know it.
It's because I wasn't at the company, so I've had to read the backlist, right? Also to get to know it, and to also all the books I'm talking about I didn't acquire. Do you know what I mean? I'm the lucky. I said to all of them, I'm just the reader. I'm just the lucky person who gets to read these books, and I'm blown away by every book on the list and everything that we have coming in, because I have to read so much right now to learn the list. That's all I'm reading. So thank God I like it so much. Because I'm like, I just want a good cheesy romance, which, by the way, I love.
Me too.
I love to be a cheesy romance. I want to know they're getting together at the end. I'm cool with that. What's going to happen in the meantime, though?
Yeah, that's a Jane Green moment for me, you know.
Yeah, we all have our favorite. I was Nora Roberts for forever.
Yeah. All right, my friend, you have been amazing. I appreciate the gift of your time to share with our members. I think they will find this beyond informative and just a wonderful conversation with a friend, hopefully. And people can understand that, as you rise through the ranks, we're still all normal people, and everyone should just get to know each other, and we're all out here doing our best work.
Yeah. I've loved this. Thank you for the opportunity to just chat with you, but and to kind of reminisce, but also talk about the work we have to do still, together, and for our teams, and for the kids that we all serve. I mean, this is what I say to my team all the time. It is a privilege and a gift, and we have to honor it. I honor it every day. So the fact that I get to talk to you and be part of the Children's Media Association and be with like-minded people, like another gift. What a great day. Absolutely. Now I'm going to take my other two to soccer practice, and I'm going to fry to death on the turf field. So let's keep talking.
All right, sweetheart. I love you. Enjoy your vacation. Unplug.
Yeah, I'm going to. Yeah. But I've loved this. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to put time on the calendar for us to do some IP work. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. Right. And I'm looking forward to it.
Wow.
All right. Love you too.
Thank you. Bye, love.